This is it, everyone. This is the moment you've been waiting for. The turn has passed to you. You initiate the run. You approach the ice. You must fire the subroutine that is Trash 1 program. And this is the program you will have to trash.
Damn.
Oh.
Ooh, damn.
Is that deep?
And like Ahmed Abbasi, you forgot to install Sharpshooter before you made the run.
Looks at the mimic in your hand. Shakes your head. Roto-turd.
All right, so this is where we are at, guys. We're going to just get on here. We're going to share some Netrunner related stories. We're going to do a look back across the ages on our Netrunner adventures. We're going to do some rapid fire questions. If you have some questions in the chat, as always, Hollis is probably going to be right on top of that. But where we are standing here is, this is, let me make this clear. This is not the end of bad publicity, but this will be probably the last podcasting summit format that you'll see. There might be some special episodes that we have in the tank coming forward that I'll release. And we'll be looking to pivot to some other Fantasy Flight adventural stuff. You can I'm starting to mess around with the card game there of the Lord of the Rings, Fantasy Flight Interactive. So there's that. So we're just going to kind of do the memories episode, look back, stroll down memory lane. This is what you call a 3-cost Anarch card from Order and Chaos. David, what is that?
3-cost Anarch card from Order and Chaos.
That's memory related.
That's memory related.
Anyone? The mem strips.
Oh,
dun 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 dun.
Oh.
Dun.
Sorry. In my head, I'm like, what card would I actually play? I'm like, Run Amok? No, that's not Order.
Was Skulljack in Order and Chaos?
Yeah, no. I thought about that. Skulljack costs 2.
We are not skulljacking anyone. What's up, Chris? Glad to see you in the chat. Happy Wednesday to you as well. So, Dave, what's your biggest Netrunner memory that you have then?
So I have a bunch of them, but the one that I go to most of the time is when I met my very good friend Alec. I actually met Alec playing Netrunner, and I met him when we were playing on stream for Dodge Pong. I had seen him around, seen him at a couple tournaments. We actually ended up playing each other, and as I talk about on the show a lot, I play a lot of weird stuff, just because makes me feel good. So I was playing an HB deck, and I had 2 toll booths in it, and I'm like, nah, I want to try something new. So I took out one of the toll booths, and I put in a wormhole, and I'm like, same influence, only costs 1 credit more. I can use it to fire subroutine on something else. Seems cool. Let's try it out. So we ended up playing, and Alec was playing I believe a Snitch au revoir Leela deck.
Of course.
Because of course he was. And as he was running around and checking what all the ice was, he hits the wormhole, and audibly on this video, I need the thing that, like, my first memory of Alec is this. I flip over a wormhole because he exposes it, and he says, "Wormhole," and that's the voice. And first memory of Alec. We ended up talking at a different tournament after that. Found out that we're like, oh crap, we live like 10 minutes away from each other. 10 or 20 minutes. So we ended up getting together, playing games, and that was what, 2 or 3 years ago, something like that. We've been talking pretty much every day since. So yeah, that's one of my favorite Netrunner memories. My second favorite is a phrase that I got started. I was playing a guy, and he was doing back in the day the AstroScript pilot program. I forgot what it was called. It's been so long. Where you just like accidentally win the game. It's like, oh, whoops. So he was doing this chain of scoring AstroScript over and over again, and it was kind of like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. And this is in a top 8 or something like that. And I remember saying just like first thing that came to my mind, which was, man, you sure are good at Netrunner. And then I somehow top decked 4 agenda points and won the game, and it became a meme ever since then. You sure are good. So yeah, it's been a really fun game. I got in, I think, just a little bit after the core set, right when during the first cycle, and I've been playing ever since, up until here recently with the news. It's been my favorite competitive 2-player game. I've tried to play other card games, and I end up comparing them to Netrunner, and I'm like, it's not as good. So yeah, I'm sad to see it go. I'm excited to see what they're put out in Nisei. I'm kind of pumping the brakes a little bit, see what they come out with, and then I'll assess the situation from there. But yeah, had a great time with doing this. This podcast has been fun. Yeah. So.
Hell yeah. I can tell you, the reason why Wormhole surprised me so much is because I had these assumptions about like what would be a reasonable card in HB, and let me tell you, Wormhole, not a splash I expected to see. So you got me good.
It fired one time that day, and I copied an Ichi and trashed a program.
Dude,
and
that is
value. Worth it.
I'm surprised you didn't hang it up right there. Retire.
That's right.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to take off my cleats. Going to toss them over the wire.
Easy.
We're done.
Well done.
Yeah.
Alec, do you have any like Netrunner regrets?
Ooh, Netrunner regrets. That is a big one. I think one of my regrets, well, one of the challenges for me in doing the content that I was doing, particularly streaming commentary with Beachak, which was an amazing experience and I had so much fun, is there were times where I felt like, man, I was on a super fun deck for the period leading up to when I would do commentary, and then I would do the commentary and be like, well, don't get to play. But I think that experience taught me that I enjoy the process of getting to know the game really deeply and then talking about it a lot more than I do getting to know it deeply and trying to perform well. So I think ultimately what those things taught me was, and my biggest regret maybe, was not realizing sooner that that was the way I enjoyed the game most, was not being hyper competitive, not stressing about doing well, and just finding my own way and finding the fun things that I wanted to try and wanted to do sooner. So, yeah, but I got there, and for the past many months and years, have really been enjoying it. So, yeah.
Hollis, what do you got on your mind, man?
I'm kidding. Actually, I kind of want to echo Alec's last statement because I very, very much relate. Bros, I very much relate. I think that when I started playing this game, I very much cared about, because I came from a young age, right? I came from Pokemon, and at some point, even though I was much younger, you know, playing Pokemon as a young kid and like qualifying for like those early world champs, I understood the elements involved in like a lifestyle game. But what I don't, but I never really moved into Magic. So it had been years since I had actually played a competitive card game. Netrunner comes along at the right time for me. I have all this time to invest in it. And all of a sudden, it reminds me of what it felt like when I was a younger kid, when I was like, oh, I really, really do like playing competitively. And then something unique happened. I would play with my friends, and yeah, they would also want to play competitively, but then we would be talking about like decks. I want to say it was I remember, never forget, it was Replicating Perfection was the start of it, where we would discuss these like one card differences within the deck, and immediately I realized that that was an aspect of the game that I enjoyed more than playing. Sometimes just talk like just like you, Alec, getting to the point where it was okay, I now understand the game at a higher level, so I can get the competitive aspects of it pretty heavily. I understand why very careful choices are made. And now I'm talking about one card, two card changes based on matchup, based on what the meta is doing. And just the discussion on why that one or two card change up does so much for the game was really enthralling. And I remember having nights with my friends where we would play in our league, go out for drinks later, and that would be the table discussion. It would be, okay, really though, so the 3 Sundew, but hear me out. 2 Sundew. Let me explain. And you're like, really, really bad decisions, but just having the discussion was really entertaining. Which then moved to, I enjoy talking about the game so much, I want to do that weekly. And that's when I was I was invited on the Winning Agenda. I was invited on Bad Publicity, and as that became normal, as the norm thing, I was like, okay, that's a new passion I've discovered from playing the game. Like talking about.
That's a great segue to my biggest regret about the game. Just kidding. I know you're the kind of guy that will laugh about that later when you understand the joke there, but
I was like, oh. But then, of course, as I was invited to do, the commentary, that again was that was like a sort of like the final evolution of that challenge. It started off as being a competitive player, then realizing I love the discussion, and then being able to partner with Alex, Alex. Partner with Ben and Alec to actually do the commentary and go, this is the fun part. Because now I'm having this discussion actively. I'm thinking like that competitive player. I know the decks in the meta. I see how the game works really well. So the high level discussion can just happen, and there's excitement. And in a weird way, it's stressful, but it's less stressful than even playing, because now I don't have to deal with the, oh my God, did I just make a mistake? I can't read the board. And I just like that in between that you feel as a player that is stressful when you're commentating is exciting, because you are just like the viewer and you want to portray that, and in the game itself becomes an exciting thing.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen people on commentary get torn apart. So
yeah,
you're just trying to do something nice, and all of a sudden the mud gets flown. Let's talk about something. Let's talk about a different aspect that we haven't really talked about here on Bad Publicity before. Let's get real. And we've done that before here, so bear with me. But let's look at when Netrunner came out. Okay, this was not the first LCG. We saw Fantasy Flight convert a bunch of their previous collectible games to the LCG format, and they kind of puttered along, but Netrunner exploded. It really drew a lot of visibility to the table. I mean, I believe at the same time they came out with Star Wars, that as well. But let's put the stick in the sand with Netrunner and say you had Netrunner. After that, you saw them come out with Conquest. You saw them reboot Game of Thrones. You saw them pivot into Legends of the Five Rings. But me personally, I don't think that any of them held the power that Netrunner did. And it was because it was such a boost globally, like huge. And then it kind of, when it lost people along the way, it wasn't such a significant thing. You know, like, for example, if you have like 1 million people playing a game and 10% of that, you lose 10%, then there's still a huge amount of people playing. Yeah, I do not know what's wrong with the stream tonight, guys. I know it's choppy and stuff, so I apologize. That it's unknown why we're having these issues recently. Do you feel, though, that this model of LCG, like the LCG model, is it dead? And what's your actual opinion on playing an LCG compared to a collectible, now that you've gone through a whole style of game? You know, is it better, like people talked about, where is it better that everybody has the same card pool, that we're all on the same level? Or would you rather see the diversity you get with a collectible style of game? Is the LCG format sustainable? Like, could it have gone farther past what Netrunner could do? Or is it like the other games we saw? We saw Star Wars cap out. Eventually, they had to reboot Game of Thrones because of things. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on the LCG format? Someone take that and run with it.
No, I don't think they're sustainable. I think they have a certain lifespan, and that they need rotation in order to work. You need to have rotation that actually happens instead of just talking about it forever with Netrunner and kind of stringing it along. You absolutely must rotate the cards out, especially, you know, in a competitive game. You just be like, all right, cool, these sets don't exist, aren't good anymore, and you use that to drive the secondary market. The hard part with an LCG is there is no secondary market. So you either get the cards or you don't, and you're done. So they don't really need to worry about that, which is nice for guys like me that don't really want to spend the time finding all the cards. I don't think that the collectible card game aspect of rarity actually matters for competitive gamers. I think that if somebody wants to win, they'll drop an extra $80 to get all the copies of the card.
Preach!
So they can play it. Yeah. Netrunner just said, hey, if you look at this pack and you don't want any of these, because the best card in it's Skulljack, you don't have to buy this. You can just let this thing go. So, you know, we had a legit couple data packs like that. There's a data pack. Don't own one data pack. And I just never went back and bought it because I didn't think I needed any of the cards in it. I will now buy it, you know, for completion's sake. But you know, Netrunner gives you that model, and it's just $15 to pick up a pack. So it's not like you're out a whole lot of money and you're in a monthly subscription kind of thing. I think that the best way that they could continue the LCG format is what they're doing right now. I believe they still make the Lord of the Rings game. And the Arkham horror game is great. And it uses the LCG format flipped a little bit because they do individual scenarios. So it's good for FFG because you must buy the pack in order to continue the adventure. And it's good for the customer because, you know, hey, as I'm going along, I had some experience saved for my character. Here's the new pack. Oh, sweet! There's a cool new thing in here that I'm gonna go ahead and buy before we do the next adventure part of it. I think that's where the LCG is perfect for. As far as competitive games go, I don't think it's as good for a big company to have a no secondary market in a game. Because, you know, you're not really driving more sales. Because once you make the one sale, you're done. So I don't really think it's great for competitive games. If you're a company that's looking to make a lot of money, which is most companies, But like the scenario-based stuff, I think it's perfect for her, and that's kind of its niche.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I had to find out about that after playing Netrunner for 6 years. So.
But at least you're on the Arkham train now, and
Yes.
you understand the strengths of that model. And I think part of the appeal of that too, right, is that games like Arkham, cooperative LCGs, require a lot less interface and communication with the people running the game, because they really don't have to balance anything or have a restricted list or erratas, and people aren't going to get all bent out of shape because one investigator is super OP. And while you are likely to pick up every pack in a campaign, you can move between campaigns or skip campaigns at time and buy sets of packs and, pick and choose how you want. For me, I think a lot of your points are really solid on this. I think that support aspect, though, is the thing that is outside of the LCG model that affects the quality of any competitive card game. And when it came to Netrunner support, I think it was across the board just a little too slow and a little too lacking to support really sustained, committed, pushing the envelope competitive play across the board. It was really kind of fits and starts of support, where you'd have a most wanted list and then total radio silence for 4 to 5 months, and then here's a new list, and the incentives to perform well were also pretty lacking. They were all sort of like acceptable. They were just enough to call it a competitive game, but it wasn't until, ironically, the Magnum Opus Worlds event, where it seemed like they really came out with all the stops of cool prizes and cool support, and so clearly they had ideas, right, to put together all that sort of thing. It just felt like it wasn't enough. It wasn't pushing things aggressively enough or trying new things and being responsive and communicative with the community about the things that they were doing. So yeah, it seems a lot more sort of company philosophy and practice to me that held Netrunner back, rather than the LCG model specifically.
Hollis, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I number one, you guys, I think hit the nail on the effing head. But I think I'm gonna tie this into what you said earlier, Jameson. FFG not knowing the potential success, like not being able to know how that early, because how could they? I don't think they had any. I think Netrunner, obviously L5R immensely successful from the launch, right? But I'm saying, like, I don't think they had the same amazing jump and peak that they saw with Netrunner compared to all the other LCGs. I think it was very like low-key mid-range for all the games they'd release, and then Netrunner hits, and it's like, boom, like best-selling card game, best-selling LCG you've ever had, way more people playing the game than you ever had. You can't keep it in stock. Everybody wants in on this. And of course, with that giant crowd that I prepared for, they're getting hit with the players that are now playing your game that come from all these other facets of card games, right? The players that came from Magic and old L5R and Pokemon and Spoils or whatever, like all these players playing these games, and they're going, okay, so where's the competitive play? What's the tournament prizes? What's the Friday Night Magic kit? Like what's the incentive for me to get this going at my local game store, to get everyone together to keep playing the game? How is the tier structure of the World Championship going to work? Most other World Champs are not you just show up. They're not just you show up. It's you need to win. You need to get X amount of qualifying points, or you only are allowed to attend if you win these qualifiers, and then from there, then everyone else has to play this crazy Swiss, and then in games like Magic, where not playing for the first 3-4 rounds is massive comparatively to what Netrunner provides as far as like what you get out of it. I'm just saying, like, it, or at least at the very least, it's at least equivalent, right? It's just they did not have this the structure for this, because until Netrunner being so successful, they didn't have to. The living card game concept for them really got to just be this more. I hate to say this in a way that's going to sound so like disrespectful, I guess, to both FFG and players, but the format could be more fun. The competitive aspect didn't really exist in the way it did for the card games, so they never really had to worry about it to the level. Netrunner, I think, was the first time they said, "Oh crap, they want all of this, so we gotta do all this, we gotta get it ready." And I can't imagine how many times things change. One example I'll give you to how things change: do you not recall an article or a number of details regarding a judging program? And we never received that, did we? We got official judges, but we never received that judging program. And I think that became a byproduct of, okay, they're looking for like a structured way, because we don't templatize. They're looking for a structured way. We can find a central location to get rules, and then Anchor became available. Shout out to
Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob. Shout out to Jacob. And from there it was like, okay, well, if the fans of the game already have the centralized location to get rules, and do we just piggyback off that? Do we still do our own thing? Do we pull from that? What's the way we do it? I mean, I feel like all of the organized play concepts are things that I would normally, I would jab at FFG as far as like how they've dropped the ball or how they were dragging their feet. But the truth is, as critical as that would be, it's also a bit disrespectful and unfair, because they had not dealt with this.
Yeah.
They were figuring it out.
So that's kind of an FFG thing overall, though. They kind of accidentally failed with Twilight Imperium, and became an actual company. Then they started bringing European games over and redoing them, and it's like okay, so that's really neat. Then they kind of accidentally succeeded with the LCG. Hey, if I go to, or if one of my employees comes to me and they're like, hey, something's wrong with my time card, right? I need you to handle this. And I just say no, then that's kind of bad. You kind of want a leader to be someone that's going, oh yeah, hang on, I'll fix that right now because you need to get paid. So FFG is really, really bad at doing that. And turns out that in this example, an employee not getting paid for working because there was a problem with them clocking in, and a bunch of competitive players not getting what they asked for, which is some support, kind of just makes people aggravated, and that's what we've had, unfortunately, the whole time.
All right, let's blast off a couple of these questions a little quicker here, in the sake of time wise. Can a actual card game sustain in this day and age? So what I mean by that is no digital format. There's a lot of people that think that Netrunner itself stayed around as long as it did because it had a mobile or a electronic version for people to keep playing and testing. They didn't have to, put out the huge calls. People weren't like, hey, can you want to meet up at the game shop tonight? Can you meet this coffee shop? I could just blast off 15 games in an evening. Do we need, is the actual physical, card paper format of a game dead in the water if it is not released with some kind of electronic format on it? Or is electronic format the way that everything needs to go now?
I think across the board, because different companies keep raising the bar and therefore raising expectations with what it takes to be a successful card game, I think Netrunner is a perfect example of, if you're not going to release a digital version of the game, someone is. And if you're a savvy company who cares about the continuity of your project across every conceivable platform, I think ideally you would want to take the reins on the digital version so that you have day zero implementation of new cards and the ability to have the physical and digital releases mesh with each other. I think that's sort of just the way things are going, and clearly FFG sees that there's some future for digital card game spaces. Now, whether that's a direct one-to-one recreation of the physical experience, I think that's something that's not totally figured out. But players want to play the game, and we're also used to digital devices that we're gonna want to have it where we are, and oftentimes it's not in person. So, for me at least, I think digital is just part of the game now.
I think we're in the golden age of board gaming right now, and we don't realize it. Board gaming is absolutely hot. It doesn't need an app to function. Just where board gaming's at is in its golden age. I don't think card games are still there. So I do think a digital support, especially for a competitive game, absolutely needs the online. Because I know me, when I get home, if there's something that I'm interested in doing, you know, I'm a 30-year-old married guy with a career, you know. I don't have a lot of time to just go and be somewhere to play a game like I did when I was younger. So having a digital thing, at least for people my age, you know, it allows me to still play with it. So, yes, yeah. I do think you need a digital format for a game like this.
Hollis, I'm not talking about podcasts. I'm not talking about an actual player base, because you know you need a player base for something to survive. Do you think the longevity of Netrunner would have been as long as it did if there wasn't so many other resources then available? Like somebody, I know they tried to do something with Card Game DB, and we saw a lot of flack and up and down stuff there. But, you know, the birth of Netrunner DB, the Anchor Project, you know, I'll include, you know, Jinteki.net, like community-driven resources where I'm talking about, right? I'm like, not podcasts, not the actual player-based community. Would Netrunner have sustained if it didn't have that much resources behind it that weren't official?
I'm going to piggyback this off of David's answer. I think that in the case of that you mentioned, if we're ignoring like podcasts and sort of like creator content like that, yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely not. Netrunner without to me the major ones. Netrunner without StimHack as a central hub for everything, providing articles and like deck write-ups for like tournament winners, right? Netrunner DB and other sites like Meteor, Aku, which is great for like tracking deck lists and all kinds of data.
Meteor.
Yeah, like I mean, all of those sites not existing. Oh, and of course, Jinteki.net, of course. All of those sites, all those resources. Without those resources, the game is definitely worse, because you don't have a great place to like sort of like act like to collect all that information and discuss. Okay, yo, hey, this one in Philly. Can you believe he played this deck in Philly? This got second. Are we underestimating this deck because it got second? Do we need to take a second look at it? Wait a minute. What deck did you play for the tournament? Do you remember exactly what your list was? You don't. You've changed it since then, but you don't remember exactly. I mean, like all of those things that matter. All those things, like David said, at this point in time, without an online component. Granted, I know that's expensive. I know you need probably a fair amount of. It's not a cheap thing to do. And I don't even care how you do it. Magic or Netrunner, Pokemon does it by giving you the online free card in the pack you buy. You straight up just get a free rando pack every time you buy a regular pack of cards, and you can buy cards separately on the online platform. Okay. I don't even care how they do it, but not having an online platform especially, shout out to Octagon and Jinteki.net, right?
Oh, yeah.
Without the ability to play online, your
DB0 original, the old school.
Yeah, if without that, and without that being an option, your world is smaller.
So, throw up Alec, get his chime in on some of this situation, and adding in the point where, what about the stuff that we've heard though, that with the internet and a game that isn't a living card game, that this puzzle is figured out a lot quicker because of the overmind mentality, right? So was that bringing the game down though? Because, you know, once you were able to find out the deck.
So I think the LCG model allows you to get away from that collective consciousness, net decking, solving the game kind of state fairly reliably. If you're putting out packs every 4 weeks, and each of those packs contains some fairly impactful cards, which I think a lot of them did, every couple weeks you're getting something new. You're getting a new ID or a new card to a deck that maybe was tier 2 and now it's coming back. So I think the model actually provided healthy little disruptions between those semi-solved states. But I actually don't think that collective kind of problem solving is inherently a bad thing. I actually think that's one of the strengths of these platforms that we're talking about, is that it gives people the ability, if they're not the best deck builder that they know, that they can go on a website and get inspired, not just to see what's been performing well and then maybe do their own take on it, but also see wacky stuff like Big Girls Play with Monolith and that next design deck that was running around with Grail, right? These iconic, weird, off-the-wall decks. I don't know if we ever would have heard about if all we had available were the people that we knew directly. So that ability to see the variety that's out there and be inspired. Some of my favorite decks are stuff that I just straight up net decked. And they weren't tier 1, but they were fun and different. And that, to me, was sort of the best that those resources could be, is a source of inspiration. And I think for a lot of people, they serve that purpose.
Nice. Dave, coming back to you, we've had a rough stream here, so we apologize to some of the people. I'm not sure what it is, but any closing thoughts? Like, let's kind of make this one a little bit short and sweet here.
Okay. If you play any competitive game, it will eventually die. So make peace with that now. Enjoy the friendships you made along the way. I know I do. I still, I met an entire new group of people that I still interact with. And I will continue to interact with by playing Netrunner. Find a new hobby. Find some stuff you enjoy. Throughout life, you're going to have to experience change no matter how much you might not like it. You're going to need to learn to...
the hand of
find
truth.
Your dream.
Yeah.
Find your dream.
So Alec, anything from you? Anything you want to just talk about that you're pivoting to?
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat to David. I've really become enamored with the Arkham Horror card game and competitive games like that, because what those kind of games preserve is a sense of camaraderie and being with people in the moment, solving this puzzle together, getting a little wrapped up in the theme, and just enjoying being with people. And for me, that's always been the strength of a game like Netrunner, is that, for me at least, it never got so competitive that I ever forgot that it was about the people and it was about the connections and the friendships. So that's what I'm going to take with me onto my gaming future. I've got a lot more gaming aspirations ahead of me. And I hope people find something that approaches the satisfaction that we may have all gotten from Netrunner, and find their own way, like we all will. So I got high hopes for where we're all going next with our free time.
Hollis?
Woo! I will obviously be keeping an eye on the game as far as how he's going to do with it. I am kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because I've said this before on other occasions. I feel like Netrunner came to me at a time where I was dealing with a lot of things happening in my life that weren't so great. Netrunner gave me a great fun option to distract me and ended up turning into something I loved, and that evolved into other passions over time, which is amazing. I've never had a game ever do that level for me, ever. And so because of that, I think I will always remember Netrunner, connect to it, and want to come back to it. And of course, if ever, somehow, some way, they announce a different version, oh, I'm in. Hello. But regardless, right now what I'm working with is I'm kind of following just sort of the where the wind blows with my friends. My friends and I already meet up pretty much weekly. We play different board games, card games. And funny enough, I have friends right now that are already into Pokemon, the trading card game, which is insane to me because this is, taking me back to when I was 13 years old. But knowing that it's something that's still going on some odd 15 plus years or whatever later, is something that is kind of making me interested. Maybe I'll play it. I don't know. But I definitely kind of hope that if I do, no matter what I get into, whether it's Arkham or it's more board games or Pokemon, I don't know. I kind of hope I get back into the podcasting, like commentary space eventually. After I get a good grasp on the game. That's where my true interest lies. So that's where I hope I gravitate towards.
Awesome. Guys, again, sorry for the stream tonight. I don't know how much of this is actually digestible, but appreciate if you stuck it out. We just wanted to come on, do a quick topics like this, throw some questions out at you guys, and hey, stick tuned to Bad Publicity. We got some stuff left in the tank, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody. It's been great casting with you.
Have a good night. Avoid every Archer and Grim that you can.
Grim.
Same old stim hack all day.
Words to live by. We're out.